we could get so frustrated and bitter because we feel like no one's giving us time, but people are only doing what we allow them to do.
Danielle Mercury. It's time for the show with Danielle. Welcome to the show. Danielle Mercury. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Hello. How are you doing, my gorgeous dreamer? I am really stoked to present you a really amazing individual that I had the honor to speak on a panel with in the spring. And we talk a little bit about our contact in the episode. However, there was just something about this man's presence, his poise, his knowledge, the way that he was able to frame things in a space that really meets you where you're at, that I was just so impressed by. I was literally like, probably if there's video footage of me on the panel, like you see me, like I'm literally sitting next to him, I'm sure my mouth is just like dropped open, like, what? Is this really happening right now? That's probably not what I was doing. I probably looked fabulous and composed. However, that being said, Andre has so much wisdom to share, and I knew that it was going to be crucial to have his voice and his mission on this show for all of you. And so this episode really centers around, what does it mean to be a leader? And not just what does it mean to be a leader because you want to be the next Oprah, or you're ready to be CEO of a business, or you're ready to open up a brick and mortar. This is about being a leader in any capacity, in your personal life, in your current career, in your relationships, for your family. So often we look at leadership and we think of it as this thing that's outside of us. We think of it as this thing that is reserved for people of very high stature and status. However, that's not the case. Being a leader means really opening up to what you authentically feel called to do and share for the better for yourself and for others. Being a leader is an opportunity to take a situation that maybe is going nowhere or maybe is falling apart and saying, "Hey, let's relook at this. Let's clean this up. Let's re-strategize." That is being a leader. So we don't want to reserve leadership for people that are of a certain level, because I think it's very easy for us to do that, be like, oh, well, that person's the leader, not me, I'm just a stay-at-home mom. Well, there are so many opportunities for you to be a leader within that. And again, it doesn't mean you have to all of a sudden take on more than you can handle, or feel like you have to then all of a sudden find people to lead. It's literally an opportunity to personally find ways to better your life, as opposed to just being busy with your life. This is all things that we unpack in this really amazing episode. A little bit about Andre Young. He is the founder of You Evolving Now, and he's a speaker and author. And he spent 19 years as a mental health therapist. And he focuses on, what I love about him too. It's not just career. It's not just family. It's those two things. It's also, he works with athletes, with, different individuals within their marriage. I mean, he really is able to, like I said, meet people where they're at, and was able to take what he got out of his profession as a mental health therapist and really create something new, something more outside the box, focusing more on empowering individuals, being positive, building others up, releasing the excuses and the reasons why people aren't taking action, and really create tangible, teachable results. He's really able to meet that quote unquote busy person where they're at. And so after you listen to this episode, you're going to feel like, I literally have no reason not to do something different with my life. I have no excuses as to why I'm not building up my dream, and I'm ready for it. And we do it in a way that's real, honest, and freaking awesome. So here is my episode with the amazing Andre Young. Hello, Andre. Hi, welcome to the show.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. Happy Wednesday. I'm not sure when your listeners are listening to this, but thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Of course, they're probably, well, I mean, I guess technically they can listen on any day that they want to, uh, but it will likely be a Thursday that people can first listen. So we are on the eve of, you know, the
There you
listening
go.
date. So I'm so excited to have a chance to talk with you. We met at Justin Shank's event, Growth Now Movement, I guess at the end of spring.
Yep. Yep.
And yeah, and Justin's been on the show. Clearly, he's a mutual friend of ours. And when we were part of that event, we were movement makers and we were both on a panel together.
Mhm.
And what I really was impressed by, when you're on a panel, it's great when you can get panel positions, and it's an opportunity, of course, to share who you are. But really, you're there to support the day. You're there to support a topic, and you don't have a ton of time to kind of
Right.
share and showcase, right? You're really just kind of honing in on one or two things that you feel like could help the collective experience that's happening. And when we were on stage together, I was just really impressed by the way you carried yourself and what you shared from that short amount of time.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I appreciate you saying that. Well, one, I always like to give a shout out to Justin too, because I know Justin. He is such a fantastic individual, and Growth Now movement, what he's doing with that and is going to continue doing with that. I said, any way I could be a part of that, I'm honored. Um, but thank you for saying what you said, because you don't have a lot of time on a panel.
Mm-mm.
And I wanted to be able to always give the audience something.
Mm-hmm.
And so many times people will come up and say, well, are you a motivational speaker? And I cringe. I almost, you get that throw up reflex.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think there's a value for motivational speakers, and some people do it great. They're some of the best motivational speakers on the planet I listen to and I like. But I don't want to just get wrapped up into inspiring people's feelings, because when they don't feel that feeling anymore, do they know what to do?
Yeah.
So when that feeling dissipates, have I left them with something that's going to impact their life if they choose to do it, not just count on a feeling? So I said, if you're going to call me anything, which I don't want to be called, I don't like boxes.
Same.
But call me a motivational teacher then. I'll be that. I'll motivate and teach at the same time, and at least give people something to leave with.
Yes, it's true. I feel the same way. I mean, again, it's so great to evoke feelings and emotions and allow people to feel empowered and on a high and like anything is possible, right? That's such a great feeling. And I love that. I remember when I first started going to motivational events, like I was going for that. I was going for that high, so to speak. However, you get so high and then it's time to land and you're back on the ground and you're back in your everyday life and you have
They don't know what
nothing.
to do.
Yeah. You're like, how do I try to get back that feeling at my cubicle? And it's like, not quite. And so I agree with you that it's so important to, of course, allow people to feel something, evoke something from within. However, at the same time, give a takeaway, give a tool, give something that when they're back in their everyday life, they can call upon and say, oh, I'm going to try that thing.
And doing something and giving something, teaching something, sharing something that's going to be applicable to their real life.
Mm-hmm.
Is it easy to use? Is it reasonable to do?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't look down on any motivational speaker or any type of motivation.
No.
It's one of the 5 points of our day, and I share with my audience and going into organizations and schools, and I teach the 5 points of your day. If you want to use motivation, great. First thing in the morning, first point of your day, what are you consuming? I say we all know what it'll look like if you eat fast food every day for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Not a secret. So in contrast, the same thing is applicable. What you choose to put in your mind and your body and your spirit first when you wake up every day matters.
Mm-hmm.
So put on You Evolving Now, put on me, put on, I get in the car with my kids and we put on short motivational videos for the morning. So on the way to wherever you're going to be, you're in charge of how you arrive there. Choose based on who you choose to listen to, what you choose to listen to, and managing your feelings before you get there. That's the first point of the day. Do something about that.
Yeah, I agree. One of the things I say, especially a big habit that we have now picked up in our society is we wake up, our alarm goes off on our phone, and then what do we do? Before we even get out of bed, before we even look at ourselves,
social media.
yeah, we're looking at other people. We're looking at our email and we're seeing what other people want from us. We're already starting to give away our power before we've even had a chance to brush our teeth, which is kind of crazy.
And that's one of the things I talk about, a leader's time management. I never, unless it's the deal is on the line.
Sure.
I
Right.
don't go to my email first. I
Mhm.
save that for late morning and then early afternoon, unless there's something very pressing that needs to
Of
happen.
course.
But
Mhm.
otherwise, you're entering problem zone, stress zone, and you can get caught there because the emails won't stop.
Right.
Social media scroll won't stop. And I also know who I'm following. So whatever I've chosen to follow is positive. So therefore, if I do look at it, it's only positive stuff.
Right. Right. Like you're using that the same way that you would use when you get in the car with your kids and you start listening to those motivational videos. Same thing. It's like knowing, okay, if I am going to go through that, if I'm going to look at my phone, if I'm going to go on social media, I know that I'm going to receive a more uplifting, positive experience. However, I also know where I do not need to go, or my energy does not need to be involved in the first thing I do before I have my Wheaties.
Exactly. Well said.
Mm. Yeah, so that's a big thing. So you mentioned 5 points to your day. Can you? I'm really curious. Can you run through those?
Sure. I was debating calling it six, but I'll explain.
Okay.
So the
Okay.
first point of your day, I just explained. The
Right.
second point of your day is when you get to where you've decided to be,
Mhm.
and notice the language. I don't say where you have to be
Mm,
because you chose to go to work. Your boss didn't wake you up at gunpoint and drag you into work that day.
right.
You're in that relationship because you chose to be, unless this is some type of serious domestic thing which some people go through.
Mhm.
When you get to where you've decided to be, how do you organize your day and who do you intentionally choose to be around? If you choose to go right to the negative Nicks and Nancy's and what I call the TGIFers and it's only Monday,
Mm,
then you know how you're starting your day and what you're going to get. You can't do that day after day, week after week, month after month, decade after decade, and expect to love your job, your life, or your relationship. So point two, how do you organize your day for success? And who do you associate with when you first get there? Point three, midday self care. We are
yeah.
all going to hit a wall. We're all going to hit a slump.
Mhm.
So when that comes, and it's inevitable, we know it, leaders can anticipate it happening. What are you doing about that? Maybe it's, eating a healthier lunch. Maybe it's taking a walk. Maybe it's eating with different people. Maybe it's eating by yourself. Maybe it's sending your partner, your kids, your friend, your mom, your dad, a nice text,
Mm,
or a phone call, old school. Or maybe you're scrolling through your Instagram or social media, but because you only follow positivity
mm,
and growth building things like I do,
mhm.
you're feeding yourself.
Yes.
Preparing yourself, even because you send that nice, loving, appreciative text,
Mhm.
you might be preparing yourself to go home more in love instead of complaining about your day.
Right. Right.
Point four is a part that's severely neglected in our society and I think in people. The same way you wouldn't want an employee, a teammate, coming into work, coming to a team, TGIFing on a Monday,
Mhm.
looking dejected, complaining about everything, is the same way your partner and your family and your kids don't want you coming home looking like that, complaining about everything,
Mm.
and with less love in your heart. So, point four is how you show up at home. Can you walk through the door with a smile, doing your best and being your best?
Yeah. Yeah. And that goes for whether you are coming home to a partner, a family, or you're just coming home to
For
yourself.
yourself, exactly.
Mhm.
Do yourself a favor. Do some, take care of that and be mindful of the language that we use. We are all going to have a bad day from time to time, and we need to talk about that. Great. But if you're doing that every single day, you're wearing the people out around you. Your kids weren't at work with you, so they don't deserve that. And it's a mood killer to set the tone for the rest of the evening
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
yourself or your significant other.
Yeah.
So being mindful of how you come through the door, and I'm not suggesting anybody be fake. I'm just suggesting a better habit,
Right. A better intention around
a better intention.
how
The
you're gonna.
fifth one,
Yeah.
oh,
It's
I'm
so
sorry, I don't
true.
mean the fifth one is really it allows you to win the day.
Okay.
And the fifth one goes with asking yourself before you go to bed, before you retire every night, what was my big accomplishment of the day?
Mhm.
That one right there, because if you have an answer to that question, one, it allows you to win the day. If you have an answer 5 days out of the week, and you can take the weekend off, but if you have an answer to that question 5 days out of the week, it makes you a winner
Yeah.
because you have to answer it and it feels good. And then secondly, it sets you up to become more addicted to winning. Well, I won yesterday, I can win today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And overall, I say, listen, whatever your dream is, make sure you're being better, not just busy. So somewhere
Yes.
in your day, which is a suggested 6 point, whatever your dream is, what are your goals for it this week? When you make your list of things that you get to do throughout the day and you're going to do your 5 points of your day, be mindful that your goals, your dreams make your daily list.
Mm. Mhm.
Because you get caught being busy with all your have tos and you're getting the day done, but is your dream in your day?
Oh my gosh, I love that. Is your dream in your day? That's really good.
Oh, thank you.
I like it. I'm a dreamer over here, so it's
Mhm.
it's pretty much in my every minute.
Oh, me too. I encourage everyone to be dream leaders. Live your dream, put your dream in your day, but help somebody else live theirs.
Mhm.
I talk to so many, people. I say, do you know your partner's dream?
Mm. And what's the response usually?
Mostly no,
Mm.
because you don't ask, or you're operating off of an old dream that they may have had. Things change, people change, situations change. Do you know your wife's dream? Do you know your girlfriend's dream or your husband's dream? No
Right?
one will ever forget somebody to help them live their dream.
Yeah. That's
Now,
really
how do I
important.
best help you with it? You know?
Right, and to realize that it's always going to update. Your partner's dream may have been to get married, and then you got married. So that means, okay, it's time to come together and ask that question again. What is your current dream? Now, we've done the one thing. Let's move into the next. But you're right. We just kind of settle into, okay, we did the thing, we got married, etc. Like you got your dream, and
Mhm.
that's not how life works. It's not like you got your dream, the end. It's you got your dream, and there's more dreaming to be done.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, that's a big piece of it. So, okay, so is the dream in your day is a piece of it too.
There you go.
I like it. So that's kind of like the silent six.
It's the silent six. Yeah, because
Yeah.
one day I was, I have my, you brush your teeth, get ready for your day, and I have on my mirror my goals for the week. So
Mm,
it might be to close this business, close this, or get to the gym 3 times a week. Whatever is on your board is on your board.
mhm.
And for whatever reason, I had my daily get to do list, and it was in the bathroom with me. I don't know why. That sounds weird. I don't know what was happening. But
Uh,
I'm writing my list, getting ready for my tomorrow, and I happened to look up, just inadvertently, I happened to look up, and I saw my dream list. I saw my goals for the week, and Danielle, none of that stuff that was on my goal list, my dream list, was on my to-do list for the day.
mm, yeah,
And I
that's a
caught
miss.
myself.
Mm,
I said, whoa, I almost caught myself.
and that's why it was just happened to be placed there at that time, so you
Yeah.
could. Yeah, so that's a big piece of it where there's a big separation between what we quote unquote think that we have to do during the day, what we think is a priority, and then our quote unquote dream list, which almost people treat as almost like a fantasy or like this far off reality or you said this is my I get to list. A lot of people have a dream list that really is when I get to it.
Right.
And that creates a lot of separation.
Well, I don't know anybody that's going to walk over. I don't know a child. I don't know, most partners or a company that's going to walk over and say, you're such a great person, and I know you have dreams that have nothing to do with me. Why don't you make time and take time to go do it?
Right, right. It would be really great if you just took the next 3 hours to focus on your dreams.
It just doesn't happen. So you have to be like, when I talk about getting your triangle right, it's in my 7 Ways to Love book. I put that chapter first for a reason. And one of the spokes of that triangle is making time and taking time. You have to be willing to make time for your relationships, for your dream, for yourself, and then take the time that you actually schedule. So when it comes, you don't make excuses not to take it.
Right. So, what would you say to someone that's listening right now and they're like, "Oh, yeah, yes, yeah, everything you're saying is resonating, and I've got to make the time and take the time. I've got to weave my dreams into my to-do list." However, how do we start to implement it so that it actually becomes
Mm,
a change, right? And we're not just like, oh yeah, let me try this thing because it sounds cool. But if
right.
we've spent so much time not honoring our dream list, how do we not just automatically go back to that place of, actually, I'm too busy?
Well, I have two things that came to mind when you asked that question. One
Okay.
is a fantastic question, so thank you.
Mhm.
One, we want to eliminate one of the bully words. I talk about bully words all the time. Most people aren't bullying us. We're bullying us with the words we choose to use.
Right.
And the word try has killed more dreams than anybody else.
Yeah.
So when we say, well, I'm going to try to do my dream, I'm going to try to make time for it, just you don't believe it. Just like if you would invite somebody to a party and they say they were going to try to make it,
Oh, right.
expect them to show up.
Right. Right.
Same way you don't believe that you're really going to do that. It just sounds good. It makes you feel better. It's a pacified answer. So one, we're going to take out the word try. You're
Mhm.
going to do it. And one of the ways that you do it that I've seen to be successful, and you still got to want to. You can't replace want to.
Mhm.
Put it in your schedule. We all carry these rectangular cell phones around that run our lives. Okay?
We do.
We got, I call people glowing face zombies. So we all got them.
Mhm.
Put your dream in your calendar. Put an alert to it 2 days before, 5 minutes before, or at the time of. So I know you got a phone. I know one of the apps on there is the calendar. It's free. It's a free app. You don't even have to download it. It's on there.
Mhm. No
Put,
excuses. It's
yeah,
there.
put the dream in there, schedule it, and set an alert to it. So when it pops up, one, it's already in your day. I don't miss my meetings. I didn't miss our podcast today because it's in my schedule.
Right. Absolutely.
So when it comes up, now we work around what's already in our schedule. When it comes up, now you have to choose to ignore it or not. Now, if you're going to ignore it, you have no one to blame but you, and you eat that, and you might as well start saying, I like to do it, but it's not important right now because you ignored it.
Mhm.
Or you're going to look at it and do it. And let's be realistic. Some people can do it for 3 hours. Some people got 5 minutes. But the fact is that we do it consistently, and we're developing a habit of that we do it.
Yes.
And it's amazing what happens after that. It's just over time, it just becomes what you do and a little bit of who you are.
Absolutely. It becomes an extension of you, and you get to see, I mean, your what you do is called you evolving now. You get to see the evolution of what this commitment that you've made to yourself can give you. And even if it's just as little as 5 minutes, you may think, what's 5 minutes going to do? How's that going to, make enough of a dent in my dream, so to speak? But allow yourself to be surprised by that. Allow yourself to be amazed by what can come from that consistency more so than the actual time commitment that you're creating around it.
And also, and it's great what you just said, because what you start doing is setting up not only an expectation for yourself, but you start setting up expectations for other people. Because let's say you take that 5 minutes and I'm going to read, or I'm going to study a little bit more about my dream, or I'm going to send this email about, or whatever it is.
Right.
One, you set up an expectation that you do it, but two, you start training other people that they should expect it of you too.
Yes.
Your kids caught you reading. Your kids caught you doing your dream. They know not to bother you during that time because that's mom, dad's time, your partner's time, whatever that time is. And you start making your name and your time synonymous with what you're doing.
Yep.
Oh, so-and-so can't be here right now because they're doing that thing that they do.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
They start talking about you like that because that's what they say what they see you doing. So be seen doing it.
Yes. I love that. And it creates an accountability. A perfect example is, so I run a meditation teacher training, and a lot of the individuals are moms. And of course, same thing. Mom could say, oh, I'm so busy. The kids, every time I try to meditate, they jump on my lap. They won't let me, yada, yada. And we started creating a system where, almost all of my moms in the program, they have a little sign that they put on their door that says, mommy is meditating, or whatever it may be, to kind of indicate that. And now the kids will know. They'll remind the moms and say, mom, it's time for you to meditate, or, mom, we're putting the sign on the door because it's your meditation time. And we train the individuals in our life to know, like, this is who I am, and this is part of how I show up in my day. And it becomes this really beautiful mutual accountability.
I love that. And that's such a great idea. That's so cool that you put that together for the moms. And, I'm so happy that the moms are taking it, because we could get so frustrated and bitter because we feel like no one's giving us time, but people are only doing what we allow them to do.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So there's too much time in the day to say that we're too busy for anything. It's too much time in the day.
Time out. What is one thing that is on your dream to-do list that you're not going to just try, yet you are going to make certain is part of your everyday list. Once you come up with that one thing that is on your dream list, I want you to not only infuse it to your to-do list, I want you to make that alert on your phone, set it in your calendar that this is part of my day. Whether it's 5 minutes or 5 hours, it doesn't matter. However, what is it that you're going to do here and now to create that dream to do in your everyday life? Time in. Absolutely. There really is. So I want to segue for a moment because you said something else that I found interesting, and it's a question I hear my listeners ask me a lot. So you said, everyone has the capacity to be a dream leader or to be in leadership. And so
Okay.
often I have people that come to me and say, Danielle, I don't know what my purpose is. Like, I don't want to be an entrepreneur. I don't want to be a coach. Like, I know that, my life is good, but like, how do I become a leader if I'm not sure? And I think they think that leadership is only reserved to certain individuals, where that's simply not true. So I'm curious your take on that.
No, and it's a great question. You have fantastic questions.
Thank you. Thank you. Not my first rodeo.
Well, my experience, what I do for a living is all enhancing work-life harmony and leadership. And when I first started talking about leadership, I didn't want to be another leadership guy because I'm like, is that another motivational thing, or life? I just didn't. Right. How do I want to really approach this? And I always want to approach things from a common sense and easily applied way. So I looked at leadership and I broke it down into two parts. One is enhancing personal leadership. And then there's hard leadership skills that we sprinkle on top of something. So you have people that are in positions of leadership. And then you have anybody and anyone that can choose to be a leader. You are a leader if you are willing to do these few things here. It's all about how you choose to show up in your life, in your job, in your relationship, and in your relationships in a way that makes people want to follow you because they like and enjoy and respect how you are and who you are. How do you do that? You show up with a smile.
Yes.
Smile. It is the beacon to attract all of the other positive people in your life and in your area. So show up with a smile. Do your best. So if you don't know what you're meant to do yet, you don't know which way you want to go, you don't know if you really want to be in a position of leadership, do your best with whatever you're doing. So if you're a custodian, be the best freaking custodian.
Yes.
If you are an executive assistant, be the best.
That's what I used to be.
There you go.
That's the best.
You be the best at it. Hone your skill, hone your craft. Get caught looking at and evolving in what you are currently doing and choosing to do. Be your best. And then the other part about personal leadership is doing your best. And I talk about the 4 Ps as a person, partner, parent, professional, and then you can go down the list with being a son, daughter, friend, and all of those different things.
Right.
Are you being your best that way? So smile, do your best, and be your best. And being your best doesn't mean that you're serving people in relationships, doing what's best and most easiest for you. Do you know the deepest need of the most significant people in your life? And whether that's your partner, whether that's your brother, whether that's your boss, whether that's your employees, you want to be your best, find their deepest need and meet it. And you meet it, what they need from you, is it reasonable, doable, and fair? And if so, you do it just a little bit past your comfort zone so you don't become bitter.
Yes.
If we can focus on smiling, doing your best, honing your craft, raising your value, and then being your best by starting to meet the deepest needs of the people around you, leadership will take care of itself.
Yeah.
Now you're a leader. You are rocking personal leadership. Now, when you find out what you want to do, what you want to be, then you start adding those really what I call hard skill leadership skills to enhance yourself. But that would be my answer to that question.
Yeah, that's incredible because it's so true. And I actually, I never really thought about it because sometimes I think about, I'm 5 years self-employed now, but in my prior world, I was an executive assistant. So I love that you use that as an example. And to be honest, in that job, I was a temp and I was putting papers in a file. Okay, that's what I was doing. I would show up for the job and they would give me a bin. This was at a law firm. They would give me a bin of paperwork that had to go into files in a drawer. And, not the most ideal thing in the world, but I was in a place in my life where I really wasn't sure what I was doing, and I just needed some income. And I would show up, I'd put a smile on my face, and I'd put those pieces of paper in the file, and I'd come back and I'd do it again. And I kept doing it over and over again. I'd have a smile, and I would do those little things that would just be a little bit extra, or I would start to observe the office, and I'd say, oh, I noticed that no one ever restocks, the sodas in the fridge. I'll just start doing that. Or I noticed that, the partner, always seems to be like running out the door for lunch. Maybe I'll just see if they want me to pick it up. Little things. And then from there, guess what happened? One of the admins had to leave. They said, Danielle, would you like to try out this role? And I said, yes, I would. And then from there, eventually I moved on to become an executive assistant. They actually wound up, was living in Philadelphia. They wound up transferring me to New York City. They paid me to move and live in Manhattan so that I could work in their office there, because of how I showed up for that job. And I found a way to do it where I had a smile on my face. At the end of the day, I still didn't feel like that was my career per se. I didn't feel like this is it for me. I'm supposed to be an executive assistant, but I knew it was something I was good at, and I knew how to be proactive with it. And I knew how to keep my boundaries so that I wasn't resentful of the job. And because of that, I thrived. And I really, now looking back, believe that part of the bridge from me becoming a coach and doing what I do now full time is because of what I learned growing and advancing in that role as an executive assistant. And I actually never really made that connection.
Uh, and it's awesome because you raised your value. They saw your value. And even though you didn't see that job may be a stepping stone. I talk with employees and organizations all the time. I say, everybody isn't here for the reason you think. Everybody might not want to move up. Some people hate their job. Some people are here because they got a great dental plan. Some people it's a stepping stone. But as the employees, let's get some skin in the game and smile, do your best, be your best. So raise your value. So when you do figure out what you want, whether it's here or there, opportunity is going to come.
Right.
So now you know what you want to do, but if you haven't smiled, did your best, been your best, raise your value, why should they give it to you?
Right.
And if you want it somewhere else, you're going to have to ask for a reference. Why should they give it to you? So it's not about for the company. It's really for you, and it benefits everything and everyone that you touch. It really, really does.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if you're in that space where you're just not, you're trying to figure out what's my thing, like I know this isn't what I want to do with my career, et cetera, then great. You have an opportunity. In the meantime, what can you do to step up from a personal level with what you're currently doing? Maybe it's at your job, maybe it's within your family, whatever, your friend group, right? It can be anything, to showcase your growth and your personal leadership. And that can be a really amazing liaison into new doors opening for you.
Well, and two things, Danielle. One, do you know how few people actually do show up to their job with a smile, doing their best and being their best?
Oh, I know.
Where you would be, the fact that you choose to do that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, don't be wrong. Some days were harder than others to show up with that smile, but yeah, it's very few and far between that individuals are.
And I'll tell you too, there's power in every now and then having turmoil. Because when you show up, and I did this, and I learned so much from being on both sides. I mean, at one point, You Evolving Now was about to take off. It was right there. My wife and I just got married. We wanted to build a house. I've been divorced and remarried. I've done certain things that my wife now hasn't. So I didn't want to rob her of that experience. So I had to go get a job to supplement income.
Right.
And to at the time, I had 12 staff. And I had books at Barnes and Noble, but now I go get a job at Bob's Discount Furniture right next to where my book is being sold, and I'm like, wow! But I learned so much walking in, being an employee, but also being a CEO. Like, whoa!
Right.
So it really was a humbling experience, and the power, because I knew what I was hiring. I wanted to hire somebody that was going to be like me. Smile, do your best, be your best. How dare I not give that to an employer that's taking a chance on me?
Yes. Yeah.
And I saw the value that had on the people you have a lot of inspired and motivated people places, but they're quiet about it, and they're quietly burning out and boring out. You may be the spark that brings them back to life. And on those days, I had certain days, I worked there for about a year. I had certain days where I didn't have my best day or something was wrong. And them seeing me not be my best or slip up in my language or whatever it was, was not the worst thing in the world when somebody catches you off your game. Because one, those people sometimes don't believe you're always that happy.
Right. Can you really be that positive all the time?
So they're looking at you like, oh, you're fake, he's fake, she's fake. Or I can never be that way because that's just too much. So when you falter, it's okay. Real leaders, and true power is you don't stay down for long. You catch yourself, you apologize for it, and you get right back to being productive. So even in the face of turmoil, you're still on point. And it sets an example. Wow, okay, he or she fell off. I saw it. They are human. They bleed. But wow, look how they rebounded. Wow, look how they're still producing. Wow, they're still here. Wow, they did this. And it confirms you as a human being, but also even more as a leader.
Yes. Right.
And I teach this thing too. Like if you don't know, I teach the get great question.
Ooh, share.
So some people are not always that either motivated or a little, smile, do my best, be my best. But if you're looking to be a little bit more assertive in it, the get great question says this: hey, I want to be the best here. I want to be great here. I want to make an impact here. What do I need to do? And we just be quiet and we listen. Now they're going to say something. If it's reasonable, doable, and fair for who you are and what you're willing to do, you do it, and you do it a little bit past your comfort zone. So if you really, honestly don't know what to do, ask. But once you get your answer, we don't defend it. We don't disconnect. We process and we apply. I do this with my wife every now and then. Hey, I want to be the greatest husband in the world to you. I get hit by a bus tomorrow, you'll find somebody else, but it won't be like me. What do you need from me?
Yes.
If an employer starts asking their employees or vice versa, you start asking people in your life, they have an answer. So, and sometimes they're gonna give you a pacified answer and say, oh, just keep doing what you're doing. And don't accept that. If you are a leader that have gotten asked that question, please provide a better answer, but we're also protecting our time. So somebody give you a pacified answer, you say, wow, well, thank you so much for saying that. I appreciate that, but I really want to know. I want to come back and ask you next week, is there a best time to talk to you about it? Because you might have caught them with 1,000 other things on their mind. Maybe they don't know if you can handle their answer. Maybe they had to pee and had to go to the bathroom and you caught them at the worst time.
Right. So they're just like, keep up the good work. I got to go.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes we have to make our leaders lead us. Now, as a leader, if you get asked that question, it's, hey, I appreciate that. Let me think about it and I'll get back to you. And you must follow through as a leader and get back.
Yes. 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 I really appreciate that. And, again, that's you taking yourself out of your comfort zone just a little bit to get the necessary feedback that you need to continue to grow, and, not settling for that answer of, you're doing a great job, keep doing what you're doing, because that is kind of settling in a way. And where's the growth in that? Yes, it's technically safe to hear that response, right? That's a better response than saying, you're doing all these things wrong and here's what they all are. That can feel unsettling. However, it's like, give yourself a chance, give yourself an opportunity to witness ways that you can learn and, like you said, process and apply new ways to grow.
Absolutely. And you don't have to do what they said. You're evaluating.
Right. That's the process piece, right? You get to digest it and you can say, okay, cool. After thinking about it, I'm going to pull this piece because that really does feel relevant and that really does feel like something I want to implement. And then this over here, you know what? I just don't think that's necessary at this time. So I'm going to leave it be and then keep doing what I'm doing, like they said.
Well, and it's scary too, because I'll speak with a team, let's say a football team, and people are sitting there, and they have aspirations of going to the NFL or playing afterwards and things like that, and that's great. I love, hey, chase that dream, do it. But I say, how many people here want to be great? Most people raise their hand, but not everybody does. People playing for different reasons. People at a job for different reasons. People in a relationship for different reasons. Those of you who want to be great, have you asked your coach the get great question? Have you asked your employer the get great question? On average, on a team of 80 people, 2 usually raise their hand. Wow. Because they're very willing, Danielle, to do what they want to do in order to get their version of better. But if it's not what your coach needs, if it's not what your employer needs, if it's not what your partner needs, if it's not what your kids needs, it's very easy for us to do it and then have a temper tantrum of how much we do and how ungrateful everybody is.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And I really, I think that's so important. And I really appreciate how you're able to kind of dance through leadership, not only from just career or, personal goals, but also the relationship piece. And I think this is really helpful. A lot of our listeners really like when I talk about relationships and kind of, love life, things of that nature. And, for me, I share very much about my journey of being single and dating. And I'm kind of finding value in what you're talking about in ways to converse with individuals I'm on a date with. Some of this may not be a first date kind of intel, but it almost is a little bit. Like I could present the get great question on a date, and it would be really interesting to be open to see what that person responds with.
Oh, and another great date question.
Yes.
What's
Tell us.
well, what's your dream?
Mm.
There, I tell you, when you're in school, I have my kids. Everybody's birthday is coming up, so it's like
Okay,
20,
you're in that zone.
2017, 11, 12, I'm sorry, and I got a 5-month-old. So things have
Wow.
been busy in the young household.
Oh man, yes.
So kids are used to being asked about their dream.
Hmm. What
You
do you
get
want
to
to be when you
college,
grow up? All
right?
those things.
What's your dream? What's your dream? Then you get to college and it starts talking about what's your dream? What's your job? What are you studying? You know, you become an adult. People stop asking.
Yeah.
They start asking, what do you do instead of what's your dream? Because what you
Oof.
do may not be your dream.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I never ask people what they do because again, that might not be the conversation we're going to have.
Right.
And that may not be what they want to share about. So asking, what is your dream? I always say like, how do you show up? Because that's what I want to know. If it happens to be career, amazing, but it may not be.
Part of what I get to do for a living, I go to networking events, is part of what I need to do because you got to interface with people, and I enjoy doing it. I started asking people, and they tell me what they do. I said, "Well, you love it," and we talk about it. I said, "Well, what's your dream?" And the smile and the gratitude, it's like this quiet smile. I can explain it as it's a quiet smile, male and female,
Hmm.
and you can see their souls start to wake up because that's what they really want to talk about. And then when somebody starts to tell you your dream and you say to them, well, why not? You may be the first, you may be the only person that's ever said that to them. It's such a powerful thing. I spoke at a event for a company, and they had all of their international leaders in.
Okay.
I fell so much in love with this company because the vice president came and introduced this woman to me, a high level executive, and said, "Hi, this is so and so. She's great. We're happy to have her, but we're going to be losing her soon. Excuse me. We're going to be losing her soon because she's going to start a bakery,
Mm.
and we're so happy for her. She brings in her test stuff, and we test them, and it's great.
Mm-hmm.
And that all that you just gave is how I felt. I'm like, wow, it was okay for her to have a dream that had nothing to do with the business,
Ah.
and
Yes.
she was so joyful. How do you think she's going to feel and talk about this company afterwards? So I say, be a dream leader. Ask people about their dream. Tell them why not. That's how I wrote my first book. I was telling somebody, hey, I have a vision when I was a kid of writing a book that had a question mark on it.
Mm.
And he looked at me and we were having coffee and just casually said, well, why not? And I couldn't think of a good enough reason to answer to say why not.
Mm.
It would have been crapping on myself. And I said, so I went home and wrote it.
So good. I really like that, why not? And infusing it in your conversations. Networking is a big one. I think, networking, there's a lot of just small talk, unnecessary conversation. It's very flat, and a lot of people avoid it. I tend to do a lot of I'm part of a group here in Philadelphia, and we do social networking. So we have an event that we're doing, like we'll rent out a boutique. So we're like shopping and networking. So there's kind of a nice liaison to kind of soften the energy. But I think in some of the ones that people are thinking in their head, kind of those cold cart, like, you have your business card in your hand and you're more just pushing your agenda and you're giving your elevator pitch. Oh, it's just,
It can be brutal, right?
it can be brutal and it can feel unnecessary because, I know you're similar in this way. It's like, if I'm going to take the time to go to a room full of people I don't know, I want to get to know them. I don't want to just hear their rehearsed
Right.
responses.
Right.
Why is that a value for any of us to take our evening, our time out of our day? Yes, there, like we were talking about, there is more than enough time to go around, but at the same time, being really intentional around how you're investing, where you're showing up. And so it's
Right.
like, how brilliant, how expansive to have those conversations with people where it's like, no, let's have a conversation, because us spitting out rehearsed responses is no different than being in college and saying what your major is. It's like, okay, cool. Now what?
Wow, yes, that was a great analogy. A friend of mine, John Whitehall, he actually teaches a class on networking. He's an awesome guy. He's one of those people that you meet and you feel like you've known him all your life.
Oh, I love that.
And he is the first person I ever heard make the distinction. He does the 30-second pitch. He teaches that, and those traditional networking things where you take a turn, stand up, and everybody's on the clock and things like that.
Those are great.
Yeah, but then he said, if you really would bump into somebody in public or even at a social event, would you really introduce yourself for 30 seconds? Who would want to hear all of that?
Mm-mm.
Can you say what you do and who you are in 5 seconds or in 5 seconds?
Sure.
And
Yeah.
that's the real.
Yeah.
So let's get to it and let's get to who you really are and have a conversation and maybe we can be of value.
Absolutely. And just let it unfold organically. You don't have to just give it all away in the first 30 seconds, because it doesn't have meaning yet. There's
Right. Right.
there's no meaning, because that person hasn't, there's been no engagement, there's been no trust established. And so it's like, let me open up by sharing a couple things, and then let's see if we kind of match. Let's see if the conversation gets to a point where we realize, oh, there's some mutual ground here, there's some connection. Let's keep going. And then if you're feeling like, you know what, it's feeling a little off, there's no magnetism, then you can close it out and you move on to the next person or whatever it may be.
Indeed. I love it.
Yes, but it's definitely one that, I'm glad that more people are teaching and talking about this, because it felt like for a while it was something I had to organically learn myself. And just through a lot of networking trial and error did I start to realize that it was more about having conversations than it was about delivering me, so to speak.
Right. Right. Let's have a conversation. And I tell people too, if you go to these events, one of the things that really made it worth my time, one is meeting people. I love meeting people and talking. But scheduling a meeting before we leave there. So if I go
Yeah.
and if I can meet 3 to 4 people that I've connected with, and before I leave, I say, hey, listen, I'm going to get busy and you're going to get busy, and then we're going to be chasing each other. Does it make sense that we schedule something now? Most people, 99% of the people were like, yeah, let's do it. And they pull out their phones and we set that alert with a 2-day reminder. You know what I mean? The same process we had talked about before.
Yes.
And now it's good. It's in there. And you're not in chase mode, minimizing yourself and your value. You're not pestering them, and then vice versa for them. So I have found that if you can, bookend it with, the conversation, the dream, being, smiling, doing your best, being your best, but then ending it with, hey, let's get this in the schedule now.
Right.
It's amazing what can come out. And now networking is worthwhile.
Yes, it is, because I remember in the beginning, I mean, again, I was nervous, I was insecure, I wasn't fully confident in what I was doing and how I was showing up. So I wasn't really getting much out of it, because it was almost like people would introduce themselves and I almost would like say what I did with a question mark next to it. Like, I'm a life coach, like almost like wanting their approval or validation,
Right.
that was me in the early days of doing it. But again, it's all part of the process. And I'm grateful for those, awkward moments that I had. And now you're absolutely right. It becomes a really beautiful opportunity to engage and connect. And I'm really glad you kind of added that final piece of, just like, we were talking about before, when you say, oh, I'll try to get to that same thing. Oh, we'll try to connect sometime. No. We're feeling a connection. So let's make that connection official and put it in our phones and go from there.
And that's impressive to them. I mean, so they see it as assertive. Let's do that. I hadn't thought about that. The other piece that I would say is for your audience, if you are if you're someone of influence, so I mean, regarding you're a life coach or a motivational speaker or you're a public figure,
Mm-hmm.
the importance of going to these things is not only to get you business, to show your face, but it's also to prove your consistency.
100%.
So if I'm doing videos and I'm posting stuff on LinkedIn and social media and people are liking it, I have no idea who these people are. So many people don't share it or like it or comment. So you don't know who you're impacting. But you show up to an event, you'd be surprised how many people already may know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And now you get to prove that you're the same person that they've been listening to. You're the same person in that video. You're not different. They are so impressed with, one, your consistency, two, your passion for what you do, that it's easier to book that meeting. It's easier to do some business, because you proved your consistency, and you could not have done that if you weren't available.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, that's a big piece of how I built my business. There is the, of course, virtual piece of it, which I love. I'm so grateful that we have, I have this podcast. Instagram is really where I hang out right now. And a lot of people follow me on there and connect with me. And then I also make a point to show up. I show up where my community is. So that we can connect, so that people can say, like, here you are. And again, like you said, oh, you're not different. I hear it all the time, like, oh, you're not different from your Instagram stories, or, all these different things. And because they're getting that extra layer, it becomes more reason for them to want to invest with me or connect, or whatever opportunity it may be, depending on, what kind of individual is that. So it's huge. I can't stress that kind of duality enough, of having your online presence, but also having your physical in person. And really, even if you want to be a national speaker, be involved in your intimate community, be involved in the local scene. I think it's so important.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
So that's a big piece of all of it. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we packed in so much. You're so like, we did good. We did good. We really just got a lot of content going through. Like, I made so many notes myself of things that are just of such value. And I feel like I have some juicy intel from my dating life too, even. Like I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna, and it's true. Even like when the date ends and it's a good date, like, it's like, yeah, let's make sure that we're setting up the next date now, before we get back into our everyday life and we're both like sitting looking at our phones, wondering if we should send the text or not to the other person that we had a good time, right?
Right. Let's cut that, and then let's get to it. And I just sat with I do some one-on-one employee growth training at a company, right? So I went there, and I happened to be meeting with one individual, and then I met with another individual and found out that they were dating, right? But they've been dating for a long time, and then they have kids, and so I was able to say, and we were getting into the you part of my Rue way, and I said, how do you understand, such and such, the significant person to be? What do you think they need from you? What's their dream? And one of the partners said, I don't know. I don't know. I said, well, that's your homework. I have done this before, and somebody came back and said, my husband asked me what my dream was, and they had that quiet smile. And it was so rewarding to, one, know that people are doing, do the homework, but the gift that he was able to give her. They live together, they raising kids together, they sleep in the same bed together, they wake up every morning together, and he didn't know. And the fact that he asked brightened her whole heart.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. And even as an employer, you ask what are you here for?
Right.
Typically, we only ask somebody why they're here in their initial interview. Mm-hmm. It might change. What's your dream? If we could be of help, why not?
Right. And it allows you to feel heard and seen. And that's so important.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. So I again, I feel like people have a lot of homework from this episode, which is great. I'm here for that. Based on kind of how we were starting, we were talking about that notion of being a motivational teacher and really wanting to teach tools and takeaways. Based on our conversation this last hour, what would be your final teachable moment for my listeners?
Oh, wow. Final teachable moment.
Mm-hmm.
My final teachable moment would be intentional and be consistent with your intentionality. Be intentional with every role that you play, because we get to play it. So many people are not living the life of their dreams. So you, as a person, as a professional, as a parent, as as whatever you are, be intentional about it. What do you want to get out of this relationship? And you can't get it always by forcing what you want. We get it by meeting the deepest need of that person. If it's reasonable, doable, and fair, you do it. And you not only do it once or on a Monday, you do it consistently, whatever that means for you. And reap the value of life. Just be intentional about everything that you choose to do. And, it's amazing what happens. People say what they want all the time. And I was a therapist for 19 years before doing what I do. And I would sit down and I wanted to know why someone was here, what they wanted to get out of the experience. Two, I wanted to know what did they want? How much did they want it? On a scale of 1 to 10, how much did you want what you're asking for? And number 3, what's your willingness level? Same scale, 1 to 10. Because now we're talking about where you really are, who you really are, and what you're going to get out of this experience. Mm-hmm. So that would be my thing. Be consistently intentional about every role that you play and dream that you have and relationship that you have, and watch how life takes off.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. This was, I wouldn't say beyond my expectations, because I had really high expectations for you, Andre. Like, I did. So, and I just knew, just again, from that brief little moment where I got to see you speak at Growth Now Movement. And I believe you're a keynote for the one coming up in May of 2020, yes?
Yes. I'm really looking forward to that. Like I said, Justin and Growth Now Movement, everything that he's put together, and the audience that's there, the speakers that are there, the movement makers that are there. I can't wait to be of impact and value there, and being there to be of impact. I'm honored.
Absolutely. And after our conversation, I really look forward to it. I'll be there again as one of the movement makers. So I'll be eagerly anticipating and maybe spreading around the word how awesome you're going to be to people in the crowd.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. So what would feel good to you as far as individuals following up with you from this conversation?
What feels good for me, reach out, please. We have my website, evolvingnow.com. You can follow me on LinkedIn. I post so many videos there. You Evolving Now. Facebook, Andre Young. I'm not Dr. Dre. We have the same, we share the same name. I keep waiting to get one of his checks in the mail by mistake.
That'd be amazing. I'll hold space for that one.
Instagram, You Evolving Now. And I do have my book, 7 Ways to Love. That's on the website. But in 2020, I have 7 Ways to Lead that's coming out. And it's all about enhancing personal leadership skills, and work-life harmony. And it's for everyone. So whether you're in a position of leadership or you really want to be a leader in and of your own life, and it takes you through beginning leadership, how to evolve your confidence, your gratitude, daily leadership, self-care, and then what to do after you become a success. And I ended with my last section is the Leader 7. And that's really for organizations and teams. Everybody's speaking a different language. So these are the 7 languages your people want to hear, need to hear, and benefit most from hearing from their leadership. We as leaders need to be able to speak all 7, but each one of your people is speaking the top 1 or 2. So I teach how to speak that language in casual times, but also in those tough conversations. Because if you are unable or unwilling to have tough conversations, you will not be leading much for long.
You're right. Absolutely. This is great. So can people pre-order this?
Pre-order is not ready yet. So it'll be out in 2020, and we'll work it out. I'll make the announcement. Just follow me and stay tuned.
Yes. And it'll be on their radar.
Yes.
Perfect. Well, thank you again so much. It was such an amazing experience for me to just have this conversation with you, for you to be so generous with your knowledge and your wisdom and your teachable skills and leadership. So just thank you. And I really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you so much. And you are doing an awesome job with everything you're doing. So congrats and continued success to you as well.
Thank you. So tell me, did you love this episode? While I may not need your validation, I certainly love it. So go ahead and make sure that you are following or subscribed or have reviewed this podcast in whatever app you listen to. And let's support the show by supporting each other. Share this out with a friend or someone that you know would just love to have a juicy listen. I adore you. You're amazing. Thank you.